Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Tuesday, October 31st. My name is Scryer, and today we're going to be delving into the Darkest Dungeon. As you may know, October 31st is Halloween, so I can think of no better time to, grab some torches, grab some swords, and delve on in. We're going to be starting a new game. We definitely want the Crimson Court, Districts, Flagellant, Shieldbreaker. We're playing with all the DLC. This is just a couple, maybe a week after the Shieldbreaker DLC went live, so I have personally never played with the Shieldbreaker before, but we're going to check it out. And we're going to just do Darkest for this one. There's a little bit of a screw-up. I think our game is now called just Darkest. And there's a cinematic here, the old road. I think everyone who's ever played the Darkest Dungeon has seen this, but for those of you who won't...
You will arrive along the old road.
I'll shut up in my ear now.
It winds with a troubling, serpent-like suggestion through the corrupted countryside, leading only, I fear, to ever more tenebrous places. There is a sickness in the ancient, pitted cobbles of the old road, and on its writhing path, you will face viciousness, violence, and perhaps other damnably transcendent terrors. So steel yourself, and remember there can be no bravery without madness. The old road will take you to hell, but in that gaping abyss, we will find our redemption.
Alright, so that was the old road. It is the cinematic that plays every time you start a new Darkest Dungeon campaign. Those of you who are veterans of this game will probably be well aware of that and be wondering why I didn't skip it. And for those of you who are new, you are probably going to be wondering why I talked over it. Alright, so this is sort of like the little tutorial area. You start with a Crusader and a Highwayman, which are kind of like your default characters. This is just to kind of get you through the dungeon crawling style of the Darkest Dungeon. I don't know why I'm explaining this, but I guess I just am. I need something to talk about, and that's what I'm going to talk about. Yep, so we have a Crusader and a Highwayman, and that's a tooltip. So you just navigate from...
Brigands have run up these lanes.
I keep forgetting Wayne has a lot of narrative in the tutorial sections. But alright, so Darkest Dungeon is a side-scrolling sort of a dungeon-delving game. It was made by Red Hook Studios, and it's probably the best RPG to come out in the last couple of years. Well, at least indie RPG, but it's a great game, is what I'm getting at.
Dispatch this thug in brutal fashion, that all may hear of your arrival.
Alright, so I think we can just be aggressive here. Oh. So I know how the, oh, that's not good. Oh.
Eradicated.
Never mind. We're all set.
This expedition at least
So
promises success.
I know how the game determines speed is, in addition to the speed score down here, that each character has a different value. It starts every combat by rolling what is essentially an 8-sided die and adding whatever the roll is to the speed of the character or enemy. So that's why even if your character has a higher speed, there's a chance an enemy can go first. Interactive objects. Got nothing for this. Ooh.
Leave nothing unchecked. There is much to be found in forgotten
Thank you for the
places.
advice, Wayne. Alright.
An ambush. Send these vermin a message. The rightful owner has returned, and their kind is no longer
Oh, their kind is
welcome.
very much no longer welcomed. Alright. So we have a couple options here with the Highwayman. We have Open Vein, which is a sort of a basic attack with a 95% accuracy, negative 15 damage mod, but it has a chance to inflict a bleed and a debuff. We also have Pistol Shot, which is a ranged attack. Grape Shot Blast, which is kind of an AoE. Tracking Shot, which has, I believe, higher accuracy, and now, oh yeah, that's right, with the introduction of the Shieldbreaker, certain enemies now have stealth, and certain abilities now grant stealth or break stealth, and I believe that tracking shot is one of those abilities that I got upgraded to play around with the stealth mechanics. So we'll check that out later. But for right now, I think we're just going to try to open vein the big guy. Big characters like this have a lot of HP, and they can soak up a lot of damage. So it's best to land things like bleeds and blight onto these larger characters. And we get the bleed and the debuff. Nice. Alright. So stunning is another super important thing. It's essentially the stunning blow here that the Crusader has, or any stun type ability, is really helpful for basically locking down an enemy for a little while. So I'm going to try to get the stun here. And we get it. This is starting out great. So he is stunned. And you saw there he took bleed damage at the start of his turn. He also gets a buff that'll make it harder for us to stun him again in the future. But right now he has our debuff, which makes it so he has 20% less bleed resistance. So we're going to go for another open vein on him. Try to up that bleed damage a little. Bandits are kind of a generic mob. You can find them anywhere. Zealous Accusation. There's no point in using Zealous Accusation. It's kind of a... the Crusader's like only sort of ranged AoE ability. So, and I don't know if there's really a point. What's his stun resist at? He has a 90% chance to resist a stun. So we're probably just going to want to go for the Smite here. Not a bad hit. And he's actually going to get a turn. So Rain of Whips is sort of an AoE bleed and debuff ability that these big bandits can do. We can actually probably Grape Shot here to try and get a little damage onto the Fusilier. There we go.
Size alone does not dissuade the shot.
So yeah, sometimes when an enemy dies, if it doesn't die to bleeding or blight, it will leave behind a corpse, which occupies the spaces they previously occupied. This is to kind of like make it harder for you to reach back target enemies or back row enemies. Positioning is extremely important in this game. I'm talking, of course, to people who don't know. I'm assuming there are going to be a few people who've actually played Darkest Dungeon who are wondering why I'm explaining everything. Ooh!
Press this advantage.
Damn.
No
all right. Well.
As victories mount, so too will resistance.
So we've completed this quest, but we have the option to continue adventuring, and I'm going to, so we can crack open this chest here. And of course, it's trapped. All right. Well. Good news is it was the end of the adventure and the tutorial adventure anyway. So now we delve out the rewards. Not a lot for the tutorial. And we get to see what horrible quirks our characters have gotten. Tuckered out. Ugh. I mean, that's not a terrible one. That's not a terrible one, but it's not a great one. Clotter. Alright. So now we're entering the Hamlet. The Hamlet is sort of the main hub between...
Welcome
I forget he
home,
talks all the time.
Such as it is. This squalid hamlet, these corrupted lands, they are yours now. And you are bound to them.
So, yeah, I forgot how much Wayne talks in the first couple of missions. I'll try to shut up whenever I hear him start, so that way anyone who hasn't heard him before can hear him. But so, we've completed that mission, so a little recap will be shown in week 1. Dismas is now an apprentice. Reynard is now an apprentice. Yada, yada, yada. And then we can take a look around the Hamlet. The Hamlet sort of acts as like our... as I was saying before Wayne interrupted me. The Hamlet acts as sort of a hub for your characters. So when you come back from missions, come back from exploring the dungeon or delving into the dungeon, you can do things at the Hamlet to improve your characters and improve you. So you're able to have more success on your later ventures. And speaking of more success, the first and most important building in the Hamlet is the stagecoach.
Women and men, soldiers and outlaws, fools and corpses. All will find their way to us now that the road is clear.
Hopefully. So the stagecoach is where you recruit new characters or new heroes to your roster for you to take into the Darkest Dungeon. And for the tutorial purposes, or after completing the tutorial, the only two characters you can grab are a Plague Doctor and a Vestal. So we're just going to go ahead and grab those.
What better laboratory than the blood-soaked battlefield?
We're just going to take a quick look at what they have. Cove Scounger, Hardened Skin. That's not terrible. Warren's Probe. Gets Warren's Probe. Warren's Phobe means they get increased stress while they're in the Warrens. God-fearing, in town will only pray for stress relief. So, the thing that really, like, will kill your characters isn't necessarily their HP or their lack of it, but their stress. The idea is, the characters in the Darkest Dungeon, they aren't, like, noble, courageous heroes. They're outcasts. They're lawless heathens. They're disgraced clergymen, stuff like that. And when they are exploring the dungeon, they're terrified. They're constantly afraid. They're constantly getting stressed out. And that is represented in the game by stress, which is kind of represented by these little bars under the character's name. And when a character gets really stressed out, they'll start essentially stressing out the rest of your party. They'll start disobeying your commands. They'll start going berserk. There's a number of things that can happen to them that will basically ensure that your entire run is going to fall apart real quick here. So stress is a very important thing that you need to manage. Otherwise, you're going to have a bad time. But we have the Plague Doctor Darcy here. She's got Noxious Blast, Plague Grenade, Incision, Battlefield Medicine. I'm not sure if, and it occurs to me that I've never actually checked this. I don't know if these are default, like if the Plague Doctor the game gives you in, like, the first couple minutes of the game will always have these abilities, or if they will just have some random combination. I believe their quirks are different. Maybe I should take a second to explain quirks. Quirks are sort of like positive or negative traits that a character can develop over time. Certain curios in the dungeons will inflict quirks upon a player. You can use the sanitarium building, which we don't have access to right now in this playthrough, to remove negative and positive quirks, or lock in positive quirks. It's kind of expensive and it's kind of not worth it, but yeah. So that's essentially a rundown on quirks. Alright. And then our Vestal has... Oh. Again, I'm not sure if this is like the default loadout, but I don't like this loadout very much. I mean, Dazzling Light and Divine Grace are kind of essential, but I don't know about Illumination or Hand of Light. I've never been huge fans of that. Ruin Scrounger, Weld Adventure, that's good. And Weak Grip on Life. Oh, that's not a great one. It's not a terrible one because you're going to end up losing a lot of characters anyway, but, like, not a great one. All right. So, as you may have seen in the other one, we got some relics, I believe they're called. Are they called relics? You know, I'm doing a Darkest Dungeon playthrough, and it might help me if I actually knew what the currencies were called. But the idea is you can use these to upgrade the buildings in the town to get more beneficial effects from them. So, like, the Stagecoach here has a couple of upgrade options. The Network, which will increase the number of available recruits for hire each week. Hero Barracks, which will increase the size, the amount of heroes you can have in your roster. And Experienced Recruits, which is incredibly important. At a certain point, you don't want to be getting, like, level 0 characters on your mission. You want to be getting, like, characters with some of the leveling or some of the work done for you already, and that's what Experienced Recruits does. So we're going to immediately grab this.
More arrive, foolishly seeking fortune and glory in this domain of the damned.
And then we're actually going to... try and get scrolls by trading in busts. Oh, they're called heirlooms. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry, they're called heirlooms. And you can actually trade them in for different kinds. So, like, for example, you can trade busts to make different values of portraits, deeds, or crests. And right now I traded in some busts to get a deed. A few deeds. Because we're going to need those to upgrade the Stagecoach once again. So that way we have a fresh supply of soldiers coming in. Other sort of generic places that open up are the Ancestor's Memoir. Oh, jeez. Are the Ancestor's Memoir.
In time, you will know the tragic extent of my
which is sort of like where you can view cinematics, see what you've accomplished so far in the game, stuff like that. And then the saddest and most important place in the Hamlet, mainly because it's where all your heroes will probably inevitably end up, is the graveyard.
Most will end up here, covered in the poisoned earth, awaiting merciful oblivion.
So when a character dies, they will appear here in the graveyard. Essentially, this is like a list of all the times you screwed up, and the game wants you to remember that you screwed up. Alright, so with a brief explanation on what we have available in the Hamlet right now, and me talking in depth about the stagecoach, a little probably too in depth, we're going to embark.
A mecca of madness and morbidity. Your work
He loves to
begins.
talk, that Uncle Wayne. Alright, so because we're still kind of in a tutorial mode, we only have access to one sort of area, but after we complete this, I believe the other areas will start to open up. So we're just going to grab Darcy, and we're going to grab our Vestal, the usual suspects, all assembled, and we're going to provision. Now, provisioning isn't...
The cost of preparedness,
Hi, Wayne.
measured now in gold, later in blood.
So provisioning is essentially grabbing the gear you're going to need to explore the dungeon. This isn't going to be a very long run, so we probably don't need a whole lot of food, so I'm just going to take 8 food. You should always take 2 shovels. I don't know if we need bandages or anti-venom yet. Maybe just take... Oh, we already had... Shoot, I forgot. We already had 1 anti-venom from the Plague Doctor. Certain characters will give you provisions just from their class. So, for example, the Vestal gives you 1 bottle of holy water. The Plague Doctor gives you 1 anti-venom. Characters like the Tomb, the Grave Robber will give you 1 shovel. Stuff like that. Alright, and then let's take 1 key. And I think that... Oh, torches. We're only going to take 8 torches, because I don't think we need too many for the tutorial. I would do it in, like, total darkness if I didn't know that, with my luck, I would essentially start this game and end up dying, like, 10 minutes into a dark run. Alright. So here we go. And I will eventually get around to giving the characters unique names. I haven't decided what I want to do. Usually I name them after friends. That way I have a little bit more of incentive to keep them alive. But what I might start doing is, if people actually watch this and comment or like, I might start naming characters after them. You know, that might be a cool thing to do. Get the audience involved a little bit. So we've managed to grab a torch off of that. So when you're walking through the dungeon, it's important to keep your... Oh, okay. I'm going to give this explanation anyway before we start breaking into the fight. You'll notice there's like a light level thing up here. You want to try to keep the light high most of the time, because the higher the light level, the better buffs or chances you have of catching the enemy off guard. However, if it gets too low, the enemy will have more chances of catching you off guard. They'll be stronger. They'll have like increased health and damage, and be harder to hit. It also, the lower the light gets, the more stressed your party gets. And as I was telling you guys earlier, stress is a very important mechanic to kind of navigate and try to avoid. Alright, so our fastest character seems to be Darcy. Noxious Blast afflicts a character. Doesn't do much damage, but it applies the Blight condition, which is a really powerful condition that will tick away at their health basically slowly. We'll try to just blast the guy up front. Hey, we got the Blight. Cool. Grape Shot. On a simple little fight like this... Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Come on. Double miss? Well, at least we dodged. Alright. So, nobody's really injured yet, so the Vestal's big healing thing... the Vestal is a very important and very powerful healing class. It is... Well, it's the most reliable healing class, I should say. There are other classes with heals, but the Vessel is probably the most reliable healing character. So we're going to use Dazzling Light. Oh, we got the stun. Nice. Alright. Zealous Accusation. Come on. Nice. And he dies to the Blight. And he's stunned, so he's essentially dead. And there we go. I think the 2 generic skeletons is like just a tutorial kind of mission, though, so...
Success so clearly in view.
Shoot.
Or is it
Oh, yeah, that's right. They added the new tracker thing. So, when you come to chests like these, certain items are required to receive loot, or to disarm traps, or to receive a positive benefit from them. So I'm going to actually try a shovel. Nope. Alright, so let's just open it. Because I don't want to use... I can't use the key on that. I have played this game before. I know it might not look like it. I have. I just don't remember all the different curio combinations off the top of my head. In the future, I'll keep a little list. Alright, so this is debris. Debris is going to be a common reoccurrence in all of the different areas or zones of the Darkest Dungeon. You don't want to be clearing this by hand, and that's why I said it's incredibly important to carry shovels with you.
Even the cold
because
stone
if you
seems bent on preventing passage.
Hi, Wayne. If you try to clear this with anything with your bare hands, it will stress out everyone and reduce the light, which you really don't want to have happen. So that's why it's important to bring at least 2 shovels no matter what. Alright, so we're getting into a fight. Good, we surprised them. Alright, so in this kind of lineup, it's very important to kill enemies like the Cultist Acolyte here, because her abilities are all stress-based. So she doesn't really attack your health, she attacks your stress levels. And like I said, stress is a much more concerning stat to be paying attention to than health. I mean, obviously you want to pay attention to health, you don't want your characters to die, but you really don't want them to become stressed out either. So I'm going to have all of our characters try to stack damage onto her. Dang! She dodges. Of course she dodges. But the reason we want to try to stack damage is because, see, that stressful incantation doesn't do any real damage, but increases stress by a lot. I also believe it affects the light, too, so it can reduce the light a little bit. Alright, and she's going to go first again, of course. Ah, yay! We dodge. Alright. Can we land the Blight this time? Yes. Good.
Their formation is broken. Maintain the offensive.
And that's the first damage, I think. Oh, no, we took damage before. We can just heal her up with the Vestal. So the Vestal has 2 kinds of heal. They have an AoE heal, which heals all party members, and they have a single target heal, which is a little bit stronger.
Destroy.
So it'll heal one character for more health. Come on. Oh, though I think the Blight finishes her, so we can actually just go for small heal. The Plague Doctor also has a heal, but their heal is much weaker than the Vestal's. And the benefit to it, or the benefit to their heal, is, however, is that it removes conditions like Blight and Bleed, while the Vestal's heal just heals. Alright, so let's keep going. So we have 2 kind of options. So there's every once in a while, particularly if the light level is high, it increases our scouting chance, which means that the map will reveal sort of the route and the next room. So we have 2 options to move to here. A room with a treasure chest or a room with a curio. I think at this point we're going to take the room with the treasure chest, and maybe we'll circle around to the room with the curio if we're doing well enough. This is a really unforgiving game, and while it may not seem like it in these early levels, it will eventually amp up the difficulty, and characters are going to die, and we're going to have a hard time. Oh, hey, we got a surprise. Cool. Alright, so let's try to stack damage on her again. So these guys up here, the Cultist Brawler, they have a ability called Rend for the Old Gods, which inflicts bleed. But I believe it can only hit the guys in the first 2 rows.
As the fiend falls,
yep.
A faint hope.
Alright, so he's going to hit Dismas, our Highwayman. Note that I will eventually rename them, as I said. I just haven't decided how I want to do that yet. Maybe how we'll do it is we will say if you leave a comment, we'll name a character after you.
Gently. This is how a life is
So,
taken.
see right here, it's explaining to us bandages, because Dismouth now has a bleed, so we can go over here into our inventory and click on the bandage, and Dismouth's bleed is cured. And he'll get massive amounts of revenge on that acolyte for inflicting the bleed. Alright, so here's a chest, and I believe with these... Hi, Wayne. Wayne will constantly be reminding us not to get not to get overconfident during our dungeon run here. So I believe we can open this with either a skeleton key or a shovel. And I believe one yields more loot than the other, but I don't remember. So let's try the shovel.
Wealth beyond measure. Awarded to the brave and the foolhardy alike.
For those of you who maybe have never played the Darkest Dungeon or don't know why I keep referring to the ancestor as Wayne, it's because I believe the voice actor for him is named Wayne something. For someone who loves this game, I really don't know anything about it.
As the light gains purchase, spirits are lifted.
But so
and
I believe
purpose is made clear.
the nickname fans of the game have given him was Uncle Wayne, which is why I refer to him as Wayne. All right, so we've gotten some loot. Oh, I should have mentioned before, when we were back there, there was a trap on the ground, and I disarmed it, but I didn't really explain that the dungeon is filled with these traps. There's going to be traps everywhere, and they're indicated on the map. I don't know if you can see by this little spider web type icon here. So when you scout and you see that, it means there's a trap. However, if you're going in blind, it's surprisingly easy to miss them, despite the game giving you plenty of warning before you step on one. All right. So that right there was a hunger check. As you explore through the dungeon, there's going to come times when your characters are going to get hungry, and you're going to need to provide them with food. And failure to provide them with food will increase their stress by a lot. So it's always good to keep some food around to deal with the hunger check, essentially. And I'm just going to up the light here. We want this to kind of be like a nice, easy tutorial run, so you guys can kind of see how the game kind of plays and feels. And I apologize if my commentary is a little shaky. Never done this before. Hoping it works out all right. All right, so there's a fight here. So in this case, we have a couple different types of enemy we haven't seen. The Bone Defender is a really hard to kill because it has a high protection rate character. It doesn't deal a whole lot of damage, but it's really difficult to take out. The Arbalist, or the Bone Arbalist back here, deals a lot of damage, and he does it from a distance, which makes it difficult to get to him. And then the Bone Courtier is another one of those stress targeting enemies. So his whole thing is, rather than target our health bars, he's going after our stress meters. So because of that, we're going to try to kill him quickly. Oh, not fast enough. I didn't even notice, but we didn't get the surprise that time. Alright, so Plague Grenade, we have not seen its full potential yet. Plague Grenade actually hits the back two most rows. However, all of our encounters up to this point have been just 3 enemies, so it's only been able to hit 1 character, or no characters in some cases. But now we can use it to hit both the Arbalist and the Courtier. And we get the Blight on the Courtier, which is nice. I believe he's actually going to be dead at the start of his next turn, so we can ignore him and start targeting the other enemies here. We're going to quickly just heal up our Highwayman. Alright, so I believe stunning... Big guy hasn't gone yet, right? So let's stun him. Or try to. Yeah, we're going to get it. Alright. So that's his turn gone. Courtier is going to die from Blight. If an enemy dies from Blight or Bleed, I believe I mentioned this earlier, but if they die from Blight or Bleed, they don't leave behind a corpse, which means that the any enemies that were behind them are moved forward. Any enemies that were behind them are moved forward. Yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So, Open Vein doesn't really work on skeletons because they have a high bleed resist, because go figure, you can't make a skeleton bleed. So we're just going to do Grape Shot Blast and try to spread out some damage here. We can use Plague Grenade, or we can use Noxious Blast. I think Noxious Blast is actually the better play here. So, there we go. And we get the Blight. Nice. That's going to make it a hell of a lot easier to kill that guy. They seem to be stacking damage onto our Plague Doctor. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Nice.
Confidence surges as
Crit
the
with
enemy
Zealous
crumbles.
also, crits. If you kill an enemy with a crit, it doesn't leave behind a corpse either. We're going to try to stun the Arbalist. We get it. Nice. Oh! I guess she's the fastest character we got. So let's try to get it stunned on... of course. Grave Shot Blast. That'll take out that little skeletal soldier.